President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa will continue to engage the United States on the concerns the country might have in trade relations. US President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to impose 100% trade tariffs should BRICS member states either create a new BRICS currency or back any other currency to replace the US dollar in international trade. Now, this comes at a time when South Africa has officially taken over the G20 Presidency. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says any US attempt to compel countries to use the dollar would backfire. Peskov said the dollar was losing its appeal as a reserve currency for many countries and that the trend was gathering pace. Let's now bring in Dr Chané de Bruyn, Center for Local Economic Development at the University of Johannesburg. Dr de Bruyn, thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. How should South Africa manage these comments that were made by Trump, especially at a time, as we've just said, when it assumes the G20 presidency? And are these views expressed by Trump a true reflection on what BRICS members have actually expressed in the past, namely at that BRICS summit held in South Africa? The understanding here has always been that the discussions centered around these countries was exploring ways for trade amongst themselves using their own countries, or their own currencies, rather.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Right now, I don't think there's much anyone can do, as I do believe Trump is playing the economies around the world. We saw what he did with Mexico and Canada, and he's already met with the Prime Minister of Canada and trying to resolve the supposed tariff increase. And at this point in time, I don't think 100% tariff increase is practical or that it would work. I think we as just need to wait it out. But I also think that this provides an opportunity for us to look at, exploring other opportunities to make sure that we're not completely dependent on the USA. But also, the problem is not that we're looking at a common currency for us to trade in and completely dismiss the use of the US dollar. No, what BRICS is trying to say is we want to look at another currency in which we can trade with each other. Instead of me wanting to trade with India, now I have to convert the rand into rupees to pay them and vice versa, is to make it easier and more cost effective for us to trade. Because right now, converting to a common currency between BRICS will not work like it does in the European Union, because we do not have that free trade and free passage of people between our countries as of yet. So ultimately, I think right now Trump do feel threatened to an extent by the growth and the power of BRICS, and BRICS is assuming a more global stance. And that's why I think this comes from a point of fear rather than ultimate threats.
And I mean, just on that point, I want you to expand a little bit about the implications of the U.S. Imposing steep tariffs against the U.S. trading partners. I know you're saying that 100% is not feasible, but just also bearing in mind that this latest threat follows similar threats made to Mexico and Canada, as you've also just alluded to, as well as China. But just the implications of what that could possibly mean.
So we need to remember that ultimately with implementing tariffs it is not us paying for the tariffs, it's the consumer. So it's the consumer, the Americans, who's going to bear the brunt force of these tariffs. And imposing tariffs is a two-way street. So with him saying that he's going to impose 100% tariffs, those countries will retaliate. So then what happens is it becomes this trade war where ultimately, like I said, the consumers will be impacted the most. In the short run, and we've seen this with his first term in 2018, where on the short run, your upstream markets, they are able to withstand economic shocks, they are able to expand a little bit more. But if your business is downstream, that's unable to keep up with the cost, because ultimately it increases the cost of what Americans can buy products and services from us. So it is ultimately a state of cut your nose to spite your face, and they will sit with economic turmoil in their country as well. So I think he's underestimating the power of the US.
And just very quickly, Dr. de Bruyn, before I let you go, just your comment at all on the reports that we are seeing that the country's economy is forecast to grow modestly in the third quarter of 2024 this week. What are you hearing? What does that all mean for us?
It is positive, but we cannot yet celebrate. I think this, with America and everything that's going on in the world around us, just once again highlights how we cannot continue keeping all our eggs in one basket. And we need to look at diversifying our economy. And most importantly, we need to start investing more locally. We need to see how we can build up local resilience, invest in our local markets, our local manufacturers, infrastructure. And that is ultimately where jobs are created. That's ultimately where we are able to withstand these global economic shocks and be more resilient and create jobs that we're able to sustain over a long period of time. So yes, it's worth celebrating these small margins, but we are not at a point where we can say that we are sustainably growing and developing. I think we still have a road to go, but we need to focus local, invest local, and get our markets up and running.
Cautiously optimistic then. Thank you so much for that, Dr. de Bruyn, for us there. Dr. Chané de Bruyn also commenting on, of course, the US President-elect Donald Trump threatening to impose 100% trade tariffs should BRICS members, says, either create a new BRICS currency or back any other currency to replace the US dollar.